Hello and welcome to the College Planning Tip of the Week. My name is Nancy Steenson with Steenson College Coaching, and with me today is Jack Wang. So, Jack, I'd like to talk about demonstrated interest today. I know that when I deal with students, I tell them how important it is in terms of the admissions process. But can you tell me what demonstrated interest means to you from your perspective, from a financial perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nancy. Thanks so much. I often do talk about demonstrated interest with my clients. Again, not from a admissions perspective, right? Because some schools they look at that and it might improve your chances of getting in. Other schools it doesn't. But I do look at it from a financial perspective. So let's talk a little bit about what this means, right? To me, it's about doing more in-depth research about a school. So whether it's taking multiple tours, sitting in on a class, eating in the dining hall, staying overnight in dorm, or those things that sort of allow your student to experience life as a student there so they can get a real sense to see if that particular school is truly right for them. The reason for this, the financial aspect, is that we know that students transfer. And back in our day, right, the standard measuring stick of success was what percentage of students graduate in 4 years. But now it's 6 years. Now, there's various reasons for that. But the point is, if your student ultimately doesn't like the campus for whatever reason, right, and has to transfer, you run the risk of ending up having to pay more because what happens is credits don't transfer or not everything transfers. So you might have to retake a particular class. And so as a result of these things, it's very easy to go from a 4 year graduation schedule to a 4.5, to a 5, to a 5.5, to 6. And of course, every additional semester that gets added on may mean extra money out of your pocket. What I always recommend students is do these things. Now, during this time of pandemic, I know law schools aren't doing tours. They may not even be in person, but there are still things parents can do. Drive through campus. And so one of the things right now, we're recording this during the winter. You know, it's one thing to go to a campus where it's nice fall or spring day, right? The weather's great. But when it's really cold, what I've told some people is drop your kid off at one end of campus and make them walk across the other end of campus, right? So when it's 20 degrees out, it's a different ballgame than if it's 70 degrees out, right? Or similarly during the summer, right? If it's 70 degrees out, it's really nice, but it's now 95 during the summer, that's a whole different ballgame. Let them experience it. They might find that after having to walk across campus at either 20 degrees or 95 degrees, they may decide, you know what, way too big, right? And that's okay. But you want to learn that now. You don't want to have your kid enroll and pay the bill and then figure out that that isn't right for them. It's all of these things that allow your kid to experience what life would be truly like so they can get a sense so ultimately they can find the right school for them.
Jack, how important is this? What percent of students transfer every year in this country?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we know from national data that roughly 40% of students start their undergraduate career at one place, but end up graduating from a different school, right? So over in sort of the entire pool, 40% of kids transfer. Now, of course, some kids transfer and never graduate and whatever, and that's fine. We also know that roughly 25 or a quarter of the student freshman class to about a third each year transfers. So it's not a small number. And again, kids transfer for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's academics, but it can be the social and the cultural, you know, too close to home, too far away from home, don't like my friends, not enough friends from high school, whatever. Any of those factors. But again, that's why you want to figure this out up front because the number of kids who transfer is not small, but the difficulty in transferring is not the paperwork to apply to a school. It's actually figuring out if credits will transfer from one school or to the other. And that's where that extra cost may come in because, again, applying as a transfer student, it's an application and you send your transcript. It's not a big deal. But it's a whole nother deal if you do that and then find out, oh, these 5 classes don't count at the new school and you got to retake them all, right? That's the extra financial cost that can really hurt families and students.
Got it. Thank you, Jack. That's really interesting. I really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week for College Planning Tip of the Week. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy.